Hello. So in this video, we are going to answer a pretty complicated question, actually. So the question is, assuming that inflation has occurred over time, what is the relationship between nominal GDP and real GDP in each of the following situations? So in the year after the base year, in the base year, and in the year before the base year. So before we dig into the question, we first remind ourselves how to calculate nominal GDP and real GDP, right? So the reason to separate nominal GDP and real GDP is that we actually care more about the production change, which is the quantity change of the economy over the years, than the monetary value of the production. So when we see a GDP change over the years, it could be that we produce more products over the years, or it could be that we produce the same amount of product, but because the price level has increased, the GDP increases. Therefore, we introduce a measure called the real GDP so that we can control the change in the price and we could see the difference in change in the real production quantities. So to calculate nominal GDP, it is just how we usually calculate GDP, right? We just calculate, it would be the market value of all the goods times of all the goods in the economy, and we can just use this simple formula here. So suppose Q1 is the total amount of products produced in the first year, and P1 is the price level of year one. So the nominal GDP will be just P1 times Q1. Nominal GDP of a second year will be just P2 times Q2. And the nominal GDP would be in year three, would be just P3 times Q3. When we're calculating real GDP, we hold the price level to be the same or stable, and then we let the variation coming only from changes in quantity. So suppose we choose year two as the base year. That means we use the price level of year two to measure the value of all the quantity produced throughout each year. So in our case, the real GDP of year one would be P2 times Q1. The real GDP of year two would be still P2 times Q2. So we notice immediately that the nominal GDP and real GDP are the same for the base year because we use the same measure of price using in the base year. The real GDP of year three would be P2, again, still the price level in the previous year, times Q3. So if we look at each column here, right? If we want to compare nominal GDP over the years, we see that P1, P2, P3 could be different. Q1, Q2, Q3 could be different. So it is quite difficult to analyze the differences throughout the year. However, if we compare real GDP, we are essentially comparing Q1, Q2, Q3 because we hold the price level constant, correct? Okay, so our question right now is that suppose we know there is inflation, what happens? What is the relationship between nominal GDP and real GDP over all these years? So notice, what does inflation mean, right? Inflation means everything is more expensive. The same good become more expensive. And in our case, it means that, price level in the first year is lower than price level in the second year and is lower than the price level of the third year. That is a, reflection of inflation. If that's the case, right, for the base year, it is very straightforward. Even though there's inflation, we hold the price level the same when we're calculating nominal GDP and real GDP. We know they are the same no matter what, even though there's inflation. For the first year, for the year prior to the base year, because we know, the base year's price level is higher than the years prior than the base year because of inflation, we see that nominal GDP actually are lower than real GDP, right? Q1 stay the same, only P1 and P2 changes, and P2 is larger than P1. We know that real GDP is higher higher than the nominal GDP for years before the base year when there is inflation. For year 3, the years after the base year, we know that price level are higher in year 3 than in the base year. We could see that nominal GDP actually is higher than real GDP for the years after the base year because of inflation. Okay.